All right. Our first speaker for today is Dr. Jermaine Davis, and he's got a great presentation lined up for us. In life, work, and community, there are opportunities to live to your fullest potential, to succeed beyond your wildest dreams. And at the same time, we also see that there are opportunities to experience failure and experience lack of hope and disappointment and a blend of happiness and stress. We all live this every day. And so it's with sheer determination and grit, a compelling vision and a plan and a willing to act that Dr. Jermaine Davis will talk to us about how to successfully navigate some of life's biggest challenges. Dr. Jermaine's workshop today focuses on leading with an inclusion lens. It begins with a willingness to communicate, behave, and think differently when interacting with people of diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences. Today, we are going to learn from Jermaine in an interactive workshop. So if you think he's going to let you sit here in your seats and sip your coffee, I think you're in for a surprise. Please help me welcome Dr. Jermaine Davis. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, by show of hands, how many people love to have fun when they learn? Woo! Okay, all right. On the count of three, I want you to say edutainment. 1, 2, 3. Edutainment. 1, 2, 3. Edutainment. So my style of teaching, speaking, and facilitating is what I call edutainment. Now, I did not coin the phrase, but I love it. And what it is, it's a combination of education and entertainment. What do you mean entertainment? I don't want you to fall asleep on me, right? I don't want you to be bored. So this is going to be interactive. So there's going to be some things that I share with you. There'll be opportunities for you to discuss things at your table. I will invite people to share as you feel comfortable. I don't pick on people. Now, one of the things I like to do, being a communications professor and an organizational leadership professor, one of the things I've dedicated my life to over the last 25 years is teaching people how to communicate appropriately, competently, and effectively what's going on in their head and what's going on in their heart. Right? So I teach at Century College, which is in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and I teach at St. Kate's University, which is, got a Katie in here, woo, right? That always happens, right? When I say Century, they're like, okay, nice. As soon as I say St. Kate's, they're like, wow, right? But yes, I love teaching there, and at St. Kate's I teach, they have a graduate program called MAOL, Master of Arts of Organizational Leadership. Oh, yes, okay. So, please write the check to them. And so we talk about leadership. Can we give it up for the young leaders again? Will you stand up, young leaders? Stand up again. Woo! Please. Yes, stand up, please. Yes. Now, the reason I'm having you stand up because I want to celebrate and acknowledge you being here. And because I am a communications professor and I teach leadership, you know, this is a cliche term, but it's true. Those are our future leaders, right? So we're role modeling to them. So I have a son who's 12, whose name is Zion, like Mount Zion, right? And so you're older than Zion. So you're going to be making policies and looking at procedures, and you may be leading him. So we want to invest into the future development. So let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you. So also, with that said, you can have your seats. I mean, they're like, no, I want all my praise now. I don't get that much at home, Jermaine. Oh, by the way, I laugh at my own jokes. Yeah, just get ready. You do not have to laugh. When you grow up inner city Chicago, you learn how to laugh, right? So also, let me acknowledge this. So there's a term in communication called psychological noise. Psychological noise. What's the term called? Psychological noise. And so what psychological noise is, it is when we have a lot of stimuli that's going on in our head and our heart. And sometimes that stimuli becomes so great that we can't focus. And so from a communication standpoint, when I'm teaching communication, I share with my students, always be conscientious and aware of your stakeholders or the persons you're communicating with. Be aware of their psychological noise. Because if they have psychological noise, you can have the best message in the world. But if they're overwhelmed with what's going on, can they hear you? And if they can't hear you, that means they're not listening. And if they can't hear you and they're not listening, that means that they can't learn. And if they aren't listening and can't hear you and they can't learn, some of the change we want will never occur. So let me share something with you. So DEI is just one of the topics that I do. And I was sharing with Sharon. Where's Sharon Frutel? Where is she? Oh, there she is. Okay, everyone. All right, this is my newfound friend. Sharon, I'm gonna gift you with 2 of my books. Will you come up and get these books? Let's give Sharon a round of applause. Will you come up? And I'm gonna tell you why. Thank you. And I'm gonna tell you about the number 29. Thank you for sharing that story with me about your father. Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna tell you about the number 29 story that I learned from listening. Not talking, from listening. It's about to go down in here. All right. So this is one of those topics, DEI. I did not want to do it. DEI is that topic. When you tell people you're the DEI speaker, they're like, sometimes they don't speak. But when I go in and speak on leadership and communication, I got a program called Stress Less. Beating burnout before it brutally beats you. They're like, you the burnout speaker? Come have dinner with me and my family, right? So I know that this term and this language is loaded. So if you have any psychological noise, let me let you know Jermaine Davis's style. I am not here to shame, blame, guilt. Those are horrible teachers. Shame, blame, and guilt are horrible teachers. I've been teaching. I just got in the mail the other day. I got my 25th year certificate of teaching. And let me tell you, I didn't win College Professor of the Year because I used shame, blame, and guilt, right? I'm not here to talk with aggression, hostility, and put down. And here's the thing. I had to beg for 2 hours. I know what you're thinking. What the heck is he going to talk about for 2 hours on DEI? Because I want this to be an experience. You don't have to agree with me. This is an invitation. This is an invitation for you to level up. This is an invitation for you to think about, how do I position the Rotary to go beyond me? And so I'm going to share some things with you. I want to learn with you. I want to learn from you. So this is what we call addressing the elephant in the room. I just gave you a tip. If you didn't put that in your notes, you just totally missed out, right? So I gave you a term, psychological. Right. Again, I don't care how great your message is. If people are preoccupied with psychological noise, they can't hear you, they're not listening, they're not learning. So I'm going to give you extra. You can utilize this in the 3 P's of your life: your private life, your personal life, and your professional life. Here's what I mean by private life. For those of us in here who have a partner, spouse, or significant other, you can utilize this with them. Personal life, family member, neighbor, community, platonic friends, and the 3rd P is your professional life. So I'm going to move forward, and I want to share something with you. So this is going to be the first activity we do. And then just to let you know, I'm going to invite someone to the stage. If I earn your trust and you want to come to the stage, I'm going to invite someone to the stage, but let me work you through this activity first. Here's what research says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Within the first 7 seconds of interacting with people, we form a first impression. Now, the research doesn't say if the first impression is accurate. It says we form a first impression. And one of the things I want you to think about, I want you to think about your particular brand, right? So on the count of 3, I want you to say brand. 1, 2, 3. Brand. Everyone in here, we all have a brand. Your brand is your reputation. In the workplace, in your community, within Rotary. It's your character. It's who you are. We all have a brand. Your brand opens doors for you, and your brand closes doors for you. I'll let some of you all catch up to the last part of that joke. Right? Your brand can open and close doors for you by how you treat people. The other day, I had a speaking engagement at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. And right before I went on, the CEO was speaking. And whenever I have the opportunity to chat with a leader, I like to pick their brain. So the leader comes up, the CEO, her name is Dana Erickson. She says, Dr. Davis, nice to meet you. And I said, nice to meet you too. And I said, I'm standing in the presence of greatness. I teach at Century College and St. Kate's. And again, she got excited about St. Kate's, not Century. And I said, question, I have the opportunity to work with leaders at all different levels. Emerging leaders, developing leaders, middle managers, senior level executives, right? Executive directors. And I said, give me one or two things I should be sharing with people when I'm out on the road. And then I told her, I said, and also on Saturday, I'm speaking to the Rotarians. She was like, yeah, you tell them this. No, she didn't. I'm just joking. I know she was like, what? I'm about to email Blue Cross Blue Shield. No, she didn't say that. I'm just joking. So she's like, Rotary. She says, I had a family member in Rotary. And everyone, here's what she said. She said, Jermaine, sometimes people ask, should I go back to school? Should I get a master's? Should I get this degree? And she says, I'm not anti-education. She says, but if you're educated, but you're a horrible person, I don't care what kind of degree you have. Right? And I told her, I said, it reminds me of a quote by Dr. King when he talked about the educated fool, right? Because you can be educated and be foolish, right? You can be educated and misuse your platform. And so she says, you know what's important to me? Character. Integrity. She says, I expect you to be smart. If I hire you for this position or this role, I expect you to be smart. She says, but you know what I'm looking for? What's this person's character? Are you nice to people? Are you considerate? Or are you a bulldozer with your idea or with your passion? She said, their character, their integrity. I said, ooh, that's good. So everyone, I go and I get something. I said, I'm putting that down. I'm gonna write that down, right? So I wrote it down. So I want you to think about your brand. Everyone in here, we all have a brand. It's your reputation, who you are known as. But when I do this activity, I want you to think two things. What's your DEI brand when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion? I'm going to invite you to rethink and reimagine. Wherever you get your news from, I'm going to ask you today, just hang out with Jermaine Davis for this time. What is your DEI brand? What are you known for? So let me tell you when I met my newfound friend, Sharon. So I got a chance to converse with some of you. But Sharon and I chatted, and I asked her how long has she been a Rotarian. And she told me it's pretty new. But she told me the story about being a Rotarian, and her father was a Rotarian. And so she told me the story, how when she got this pen, she got her father's number 29. And everyone, when she was talking, now I don't know her father, but I saw like this adulation, this appreciation. And so she told me about how she wanted to give back and help out, and she was honoring her father. And so everyone, I was gonna gradually move away and go network and interact with someone else. Nope, Sharon did not allow that to happen. I tried. So I did one of these, I was like, thank you. She said, and very delicate, she says, excuse me. She wanted to know how I got into this work. And then this is how I knew she was listening. I told her in 2004, 2005, I had a sabbatical. And I spent the year with my colleague, Dr. Katie Roberto. We interviewed 127 women about their experiences in working in predominantly male fields, industry, teams, associations, organizations. I tried to leave again. But you know what happened? Everyone, I think Sharon was having an aha moment, a light bulb moment. She leaned in, that eureka moment. Because I made this statement. I said, interviewing 127 women about their lived experiences changed me forever. And when I tried to leave again, guess what she said? Excuse me. You said that those interviews changed you. How so? And I paused. I said, Sharon, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. I'm not a woman. I don't identify as a woman. However, I said, my mother's a woman. My grandmother's a woman. I have nieces. I have cousins. I have students. I wanted to know about that experience. I was curious. Yes, tell them we love them. Yes. Tell them they should be here. And so then, I want you to think about your brand, who you are known as, and what you're known for. And here's what I told Sharon. When you interview 127 people who may have some similarities but are different from you, and you sit, listen, and learn, you can't help but to change. Or I can be stubborn and let my ego get in the way. So that changed me. So here's what I want you to think about, this activity here. What is an adjective? If you were to pick one or two adjectives or one or two descriptors that you would like for people to use when describing your DEI brand, what would you say? I'm gonna give you a story and then you'll have time at your table. Everyone, I wanna say, I'm gonna dedicate this part of the presentation to my friend, Bob Enderly. Bob passed away in 2017. I met Bob, he was an executive for Medtronic. I met Bob about 2012, 2013. I was speaking at Medtronic. When I came off the stage and he said, excuse me, young man. First of all, he called me young man, so I was excited. Then he says, hey, do you want to come to Arizona? I said, hold on, stop. I live in Minnesota. Yes, I want to come to Arizona. He said, do you want to come to Arizona and present to our Arizona campus? I said, absolutely. So we developed a professional relationship that expanded into a personal relationship. So this activity that I'm sharing with you, I do this with 500 folks at Medtronic in Phoenix, Arizona. So I asked the question, what's one adjective or descriptor that you would like for people to use when they describe you in the context of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion? Everyone, I'm 5'9", Bob's like 6'4", 6'5". In this picture, I'm doing like this, trying to look kind of tall. And everyone, I'll never forget. Bob says, Jermaine, may I share? I said, absolutely. Everyone, he stood up and he says, listen, I know when people see me, they see this tall white guy walking around as a senior vice president at Medtronic. And he says, you know what I want my DEI brand to be? And everyone, all right, on the count of three, give me a drum roll. 1, 2, 3. I mean, everyone was like this. All right, you can stop. You got a lot of enthusiasm this morning, I see. So everyone, here's what Bob said. He simply says this. He says, I want to be the white guy who gets it. That's what he said. He says, I want to be the white guy who gets it. So as a facilitator, I said, Bob, what do you mean? Now, everyone, I love to have fun. I love playing devil's advocate. I said, what do you mean? He says, Jermaine, he says, it's just some stuff I don't get. And he says, sometimes I listen to my colleagues, they're like, oh, I don't get that stuff. I don't get that. I don't get that LGBTQ plus stuff. You know, I don't get this racism stuff. I don't get this transgender stuff. You know, you got a job. I don't get this women stuff. You know, women are growing, they're making more money. Why are they complaining? I don't get it. You like my acting? Right? He says, I don't get it. So here's what he said. He says, that's what I want to be part of my brand. I'm going to make a commitment to learning what I don't know. So I'm going to give you a phrase. We learn, we unlearn, we relearn. We learn, We unlearn, we relearn. We, and everyone, you know what learning? Learning doesn't mean you agree. You know what it says? I get it. Do you know sometimes if you got a partner, spouse, or significant other, they're probably like, yes, Jermaine, I want them to get it. Because they're not getting it. You like that joke, huh? Whoever laughed back there, you like, ooh, that's a good one, right? But sometimes, so he says, I just want to get it. What I don't know. So everyone, so the first part of this activity is to identify just one or two descriptors. So I'm going to give you time now. I'm a different kind of speaker, everyone. I'm not going to data dump, right? We're going to have some conversation. What's one or two adjectives, right? What do you want? One or two. When you think of the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I know different people got different views. I'm not oblivious to that. I understand that. I know the topic has been politicized. I get that too. And I'm not here to talk about politics, but I will tell you that one's political affiliation is part of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That is part of it. We don't see eye to eye on things. So what's your brand? And everyone, I got to tell you something that my mother used to tell me when I was growing up on the west side of Chicago. In Chicago, people call me JD by my initial Jermaine Davis. And my mother would say, JD, baby, I will believe you when your audio matches your video. Yeah. When my mother passed away in 2005, I said it at her memorial service. I still get choked up when I say it. She used to always tell me that. You want me to believe you? I'm going to believe you when your audio matches your video. And she would say, if you say something, something comes out of your mouth, but it's not demonstrated in your actions, she says, I don't believe you. Later on, when I became a communications professor, they call it congruency. Congruency, when your verbals and your nonverbals match. Right? So DEI is about talking the talk, walking the walk, and walking the talk. Because your audio matches your video. You ever watch a movie and the audio and the video doesn't match? Right? You get kind of annoyed, right? You're like, I'm turning this off. Right? Well, that's what happens when we deal with people. When their audio doesn't match their video, they don't have credibility or believability. So in order to live our DEI brand, so Bob Enderly says, I want to be the white guy who gets it. And then from the audience, we said, okay, how does Bob live this now? And then someone says, well, Bob, if you want to be the white guy who gets it, you should do less talking and more. And then someone, I'll never forget, someone says, you got to do your due diligence. And he says, what do you mean? He says, you got to do some research. If you're going to get it, you got to do some research. And here's what they said. You got to diversify your research. Right? Because if I just get my research from this source, it could be biased. So how do I diversify my resource, right? So now, at your table, if you feel comfortable, what's an adjective or descriptor you would like for people to utilize? All right, so I'm going to give you 1 minute of my time, and I got my phone here. The person at your table who's going to start the discussion will be the person who has the most amount of siblings. That person will start the discussion. All right, march, set, go. Okay, let's come back together with a round of applause. Thank you. Woo! Now, everyone, this is the first part. I actually gave you more than a minute. So there's a second part. So now, I want to demonstrate this by inviting two people to the stage, if they're willing to share what's one of the adjectives or descriptors they would love for people to use when describing their DEI brand. Anyone? Oh, we got one over here. Okay, come on up, right? Someone over here, all right, come on up, round of applause. Woo! I got to tell you what I'm excited about. I get to go home and tell my son, I'm like, the Rotarians didn't leave me hanging. All right, take a seat. Hey, listen, I mean, for the most part, I like to be interactive, but I understand I got to earn trust. So sometimes people are like, you still might be creepy, so I don't know yet. Right? All right, I'm going to start over here. Pass you the mic. Laura.
Yes.
Okay. So, Laura, what was the adjective that you selected that you would like people to utilize when describing your DEI brand? When they're talking about you, what would you like?
Curious.
Curious. Curious. All right. Give it up for Laura. Okay. Curious. Right. So now we're going to get some audience help, right? So my mother, Carolyn Davis, says, I will believe you when your audio matches your video. So now our colleague here has stated, I want people to say that I'm curious, that you want people to describe you as curious. So now, how does our colleague live that brand? So before you leave, you're going to get 3 tips from people in the audience on how you can demonstrate curiosity. Now, everyone, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about our friend Laura here. Laura has certain beliefs. Is that true?
I do.
Certain values, morals, ethics, convictions. Now, sometimes in life, we meet people. They have morals, ethics, values, belief systems, and they bump heads. They collide. I mean, not Rotarians. I'm talking about the other people in the world. You just get along, right? But no, seriously, it's like this, right? People get passionate. You ever been in a conversation with a person where they're passionate and then you're passionate? Then they intensify, then you intensify. Then they got data, then you got data. You got research, then they got research. Then they go to Google, right? Then they bumping heads, right? You like this? Yeah, right? This is conflict. Nobody is listening. See, when this is happening, no one is learning. When this is happening, no one is curious. So then guess what? I just double down on my position. And then I get stubborn, then I go to my friends and you be like, can you believe that? God diggity dog it. It's horrible.
Horrible.
We're friends, right?
Always.
Yes. Let's go for a drink.
Always. Wine.
Right.
Not
Wine.
beer.
Okay, not beer. Okay.
I'm curious about where you're going.
Okay. That's good. High five. That's good. That's good. That's good. All right. See, we didn't even plan that. Okay, now, audience members, how can our colleague here stay curious in the DEI space at the moment of disagreement? See, that's when the curiosity, we need to live that brand. See, that's when your audio needs to match your video, not when you're comfortable. If we believe in the same things, that's just reinforcement. But what about when you're stretched on an issue? That's when you got to really lean into your brand and being curious. So you got something? Seek to understand. Reminds me of one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. But listen, sometimes people's passion and ego prevents them. It prevents them from seeking to understand, right? They're too focused on, no, I'm going to make you understand my position. I always joke with my students. I say, hey, the political season is about to come about. I said, how many of you all on social media like, I'm about to change you with this post right here? They type it and they like, sin. Then they're like, watch this. Do you know with your post, you can't change someone? Did you know that? I mean, it might feel good for the ego, like, oh, I'm getting this one out. Oh, I'm getting this one out. Oh, you're going to lose some friends. You might be cool with that. You're not going to change someone with a post like that. Most often, their ego, pride, and stubbornness is going to hijack them. That's what we call an emotional intelligence. They get hijacked, and they start to flood emotionally. They stop listening, and then they get that venom, sin. Whew, that felt good. Right? So, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Someone else, what do you have?
So, and seek to understand is awesome, but you might say, how do you do that? So, a question like, help me understand.
Oh, all right, thank you. Yeah, what's your name? Judy. Judy came up very presidential. I'm going to lean into this. No, I like that. Thank you. But help me understand. Can I tell you, Judy, that is actually one of the things that I write about. When I don't know, hey, help me understand. I remember being in college, I had two friends. One was agnostic and one was atheist. I got to tell you something that I did, okay? I don't hide anything, because if you read my books, you will see how foolish I've been in life, right? But when I was in college, 17, 18, first time I met a person, they like, I'm atheist. I'm an agnostic. You know what I said? Dude, what? You're going to hell. And I felt justified. You know why? Because on Sunday, I went back to the people at my church, and I was like, guess what this fool told me? You know what they said? Jermaine, you're right. They're going to hell. And I felt justified. But here's what happened. At Elmhurst College, he never spoke to me again. Now, if I can rectify that, I'm going to step off stage. Give you your flowers. I should have brought a book. Come up later, get it. Thank you. You know what I should have said? Help me understand. Because I was raised in a religious environment, I've never heard that. And it makes me uncomfortable. That you don't believe in God. If I could right that wrong, I would change how I responded to another human being. I would. I can't speak for anyone else. I would. Because the brand I want is not rude and nasty. I don't want that associated with my brand. Like, I don't want, listen, like, we can disagree, and we can disagree respectfully and not be dirty. That's another whole nother topic. Next year, I'll talk about dirty fighting next year, right? So seek first to understand, then to be understood. Tell me more. One more. Listen. All right, so you're up here. Gonna give you a copy of Be Diversity Competent. Thank you. You can take your seat. Thank you. Round of applause. Woo! Now, tell me your name. Joe.
I'm Joe.
Joe, Jermaine. So what adjective did you select?
I chose to love and kindness.
Love and kindness. Oh, I'm gonna have so much fun with this one.
That's why I raised my hand.
All right, okay, so help me out. So when you think of DEI, why do you want, let's deal with love first. Why did you pick that?
Because what does my opinion really matter?
What do you mean, what do your opinions matter? It's your opinion.
It's my opinion, but I want to be the loving, kind person that if there's a difference, you just listen and you accept that person and you understand with the loving and kindness perspective.
Can I be loving and kind and still disagree with you?
Of course.
So you're saying, Joe, that I can disagree with you and I can still demonstrate loving and kindness?
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. That sounds like an oxymoron. Like, that sounds too complicated. How do I do that?
Why do we have to make things complicated?
Because we're human beings.
Okay.
Right. So now, loving and kindness. Now, everyone, I want you to think about this. And let's be honest. Sometimes there are certain topics and issues at that intersection between your beliefs, and you interact with folks, and you're like, I don't know about this one. So what do we tell our colleague? Did we tell them to pick some new adjectives and get real? Because some people will believe that. What would you say? How can our colleague, Joe, demonstrate love and kindness? Yes.
Agree to disagree.
Oh, what's your name? Don. If you didn't hear, Don said agree to disagree. Don, I've been teaching 26 years communication. I love that phrase. But when it comes down to it, here's what I discovered. People don't know how to do that. Some people, the moment you disagree with them, you know what happens? They ruminate. You know what rumination is? When people consistently dwell on negative stuff. They can't let it go. They can't let it go. Now, it sounds good. We're going to agree to disagree. Touché. But when it comes down to it, some people personalize it and they can't move on. It's like the person who holds grudge. Now, that's in 2 years, I'll come back and do that presentation on that, right? Right? But they hold a grudge and they can't move forward. But I agree. To agree to disagree. You like you want to say something?
Well, so you and I are, I mean, we're both men, right?
Yeah.
You're a black guy.
Right.
I'm a white guy. I'm a gay guy. So when you start listening, oh, wow, we are coming in and out of this.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about, when you start sharing your perspective,
Right.
when I listen, it needs to be with loving kindness. And when you listen to me, I want you to have loving kindness.
Absolutely.
And does your opinion really matter about my life? And however, I want to be loving and kind and accepting of you, and I'm going to always be in your corner. So that's my loving kindness.
Okay, thank you. That's context.
Is that making more sense?
Oh, for me, it does, because you gave context.
Okay.
And I appreciate the context. One of the things I like to share when we talk about DEI is differences do make a difference. And so I'm going to show a slide in a minute, but differences matter. So we can't pretend that differences don't matter, because differences make a difference, right? So
They're what make life wonderful.
all right, thank you. All right, hold on. We want to get two more.
See a human first.
See a human first, right? Tell us, what do you mean by that, see a human first?
I don't see you as a guy. I don't see you as a black guy. I don't see you having these beliefs. I see another human being that I should love.
Okay, so you don't see me as melanated? Because as much, sometimes, can I be, what's your name?
Lonnie.
Lonnie. Do you know there's times I've wondered what my life would be if I was a white Jermaine Davis? Now they might be like, I've never met a Jermaine white guy, right? Jermaine is typically a black name, right? Jermaine Jackson, right? The rapper Jermaine Dupri, you listen to Jermaine Dupri? That's another topic, But no, sometimes I've actually wondered what my life would be like if I was white, right? So I get where you're going with that, right? See the humanity in people, right? Thank you. Someone else. Yes, and then I'll come to you.
Remove the conditions.
Ooh, remove the conditions. What does that mean, remove the conditions?
Because often we love people with conditions. There's certain things.
Yes.
Explain that. If we remove the conditions, that unconditional love is very different.
Oh man, this is deep. That's like part 5 in like 5. I'm gonna be here for the next 5 years. Okay, all right. But no, so think about that. We put conditions on that, right? I limit you, and in those conditions, basically, I need to behave and act a certain way to get your approval. I need to get your approval, and that's stress within itself. Yes.
I would say channel your mother, because your mother loves you with her love.
All right, channel your mother.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. All right, one more. I saw a hand over here. Yes.
Say, here's another perspective.
Oh, here's another perspective. Thank you for coming up, and I appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Round of applause. Round of applause. Okay, I promise you I'm not high maintenance, but can someone bring me some water? That would be great. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, now, so here's what I would encourage you to do. On a personal level, ask about your DEI brand and your Rotary. Your Rotary. What is your brand for DEI as a Rotary Club? Meaning that we're thinking about this. I speak a lot at associations, and I got to tell you, there is a dwindling of membership and participation. And one of the things I want to share with you is this. One of the ways we attract talent. So you got to think about this. 5 generations. You got the traditionalists / the silent generation, baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennial, Gen Z. Millennial and Gen Z have different views, generally speaking, about DEI. I got to tell you, I'm still on a college campus. So I get some of those post-secondary education students who are 16 coming for college credit to some of my students in their 70s and everything in between. But I got to tell you, millennials and Gen Z, they're like, hold on. If I'm going to be part of this Rotary Club, I want to know if you've learned, unlearned, and relearned. Are you open to age diversity, generational diversity? Where are women in leadership roles and position? Where are people of color in leadership roles and position? And everyone, I shouldn't have to say this, but I want to make this clear and plain. Sometimes in the space of diversity, there's been this twist that when you hear diversity, it means less than. First of all, I'm a proponent, if you read any of my books, I'm about talented people. Why would you put an incompetent person in any position? That's another year of training. We'll come back for that, right? So, no, you don't just put, if you put a person of color or a woman or someone from the LGBTQ plus community or someone, let's say with a visible or physical disability, you put them in a leadership role just because, you know what that's called? Tokenism. On the count of three, I want you to say tokenism. 1, 2, 3. People don't want to be tokens. Don't hire me just because I'm black. Yes, I am black. Both of my parents are African American. However, hire me because of my talent. But I want you to see my talent. Now, if you're not used to seeing talent that's diverse, that's a problem. I'll say that again. If you're not used to recognizing, noticing talent, what do you mean? I've been teaching 25 years. I've taught at predominantly PWIs, predominantly white institutions. I've had students who tell me, Dr. Davis, you're the first person of color teacher I ever had in my life. They never had that. Some students love that. Some students are nervous. I've had students, I come to class first day and they're like, are you, because when they sign, it just says J. Davis. When they come into class and they see me, they're like, some students, they'll say, are you the professor? Yes, I'm Jermaine Davis. They get up and walk out and never come back. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. Right? Because it's stuff that they believe. I'm not making this up, my friends. So we don't want to put people in positions out of tokenism because that's minimization. And then also it weakens your brand as a Rotary Club. Does that make sense? So you want to put quality people in, but you want to start recognizing different aspects of DEI. Speaking of that, let me explain this. Here's what I mean by diversity, everyone. So you know I got visuals. Let us just say this is a particular Rotary Club. And let's just say initially at this Rotary Club, it was all red marble people, right? All red marble people. Now, even in the midst of red marble people, there are differences. But there's some common denominators amongst the red marble people. And they got a certain affinity towards one another. Why? Because we're red marble. We might have the same religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. We grew up in the same environment. Maybe you grew up in urban America. Maybe someone grew up in suburban America, farming, rural America. You know, you might have this relationship. So diversity is about differences. All the differences that make people uniquely different and similar, right? So then you get yellow marble people. Then you get blue marble people. And then you get green marble people. Everyone, this is diversity. This could represent any dimensions of diversity. This is diversity. For a long time, we thought that if we had this, we're successful. We can be in close proximity to one another. Let's hold hands. Kumbaya. Kumbaya. Look, I'm in close proximity to you. Just because you're in close proximity to someone doesn't mean you get them. Just because you're in close proximity to someone doesn't mean you're seeking to understand them. It just means you have the ability to tolerate close proximity. That's all that means. I fly a lot. I'm in close proximity to people that I don't want to be in close proximity to sometimes. But they pay for that seat, and guess what? I got to sit next to them. That's close proximity. Everyone, this is diversity. Do you know you can have diversity and not have inclusion? True story. I'm speaking in the Twin Cities, and I'm doing this community event. And there's a pastor that comes, and I give this illustration. Afterward, he comes up to me, and he says, can I shake your hand and give you a hug? Absolutely. I shake his hand and give him a hug. And then he takes my light bulb, and he does this. He says, I had a huge aha moment, Jermaine, when you're up speaking. I said, well, what was that? He said, you know what I realized? I like diversity in my congregation. I don't like inclusion. You know what I love? He was honest. I love when Shakespeare says this, to thine own self be true. And then there's this other popular guy who's probably going to retire soon on TV called Dr. Phil. You know what I love? Seriously, here's my favorite Dr. Phil quote. I love when Dr. Phil says this, you cannot change what you do not acknowledge. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. So inclusion says this, okay, I come to Rotary, but can I really get involved? Can I really bring my differences, or do I have to assimilate? And assimilation means to give up who you are, right? You give up who you are. You fit in. You go along to get along. When I was growing up, now everyone, I can't sing, but I promised I was going to give you an experience. Now, you can write this in the evaluation, horrible singer, but at least I tried. When I was growing up, my mother used to sing this song, and it's in the last 10 years, it stuck with me. She used to sing this song. Don't rock the boat, baby, rock the boat, don't tip the boat over, rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Right? Okay, you can't sing either, but that's all right. See, hey, we're all on a level playing field, right? Now listen to that. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over. Play safe. If you're gonna retain people, they gotta be able to bring who they are. So sometimes the reason why people don't like the inclusion part, because it is. Now we're interacting at different levels. This means there's going to be some conflict. There's going to be some tension. There's going to be some deep listening, right? It's going to be this. Hey, I'm going to invite you to come sit in my seat. I want you to learn about my seat. Then the person is going to say, hey, you know what? I want you to come sit in my seat. Let me tell you about this seat. Let me tell you what it's like to live with bipolar disorder. Let me tell you what it's like to be a veteran from the military. Let me tell you what it's like to be a single mother or a single father or a single parent. Let me tell you what it's like to be a farmer, right? So we got to sit in the seat. So inclusion says, I got to do some work. And in order to be inclusive, we have to understand equity and equality. Equality is everyone gets the same. Everyone gets the same. Everyone gets the same. Same access, the same resources. You know what equity says? Equity says you got to do something different in order for people to thrive and succeed. Let me give you an example. My son Zion, when he was born, I don't know how this came about, but he was born this way. Egg allergy, peanut allergy. Eats anything with eggs, projectile vomiting. Peanuts, could die. So we have to be very careful where we go. We have to talk to chefs and the servers. Says 12, he's used to it now. But here's an example. What if one day the principal of the school says, you know what? We have someone who's going to bring in these premium peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I just made that up. I don't even know what a premium peanut butter and jelly sandwich is. But they're going to bring in this premium peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then they're going to do the Oprah thing. You get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, equality is everyone gets what? Equity is, oh, Equity is this. Hey, we can't give that to Zion Davis. Whoa. Did we look at his allergy plan? Did we look at his allergy plan? We want him to eat, but he can't eat that. What does he need differently in this context? So you know what? Equity does require some work because you got to do something different. Equity says, when I was working with Best Buy between 2004 and 2008, and they said, we want to have more women come shop at Best Buy. And they did some research, and they found that women would come in. And then you look at those videotapes. Remember, your brand opens doors for you, and it closes doors for you. Women weren't staying. And 89% of all consumer purchases are made by, that's year 7. I'll come back and do that one too. So they came up, at that time it was like, we got to try something, right? We got to do something different. We have to do something different. We have to do something. I love this book by Marshall Goldsmith. Listen to the title of this book. What got you here won't get you there. We got to do some things different. If you're taking notes, I see some of you taking notes. If you're taking notes, put this in your notes. ROC versus ROL. ROC stands for rate of change. There's always a rate of change. If Rotary is going to be around another 100 years, what is Rotary's rate of learning with regards to the rate of change? If your rate of learning doesn't keep up with the rate of change, you fall behind, you become a has-been, and you can't attract new members, or you attract new members and they don't stay. Why? Because your rate of learning has not kept up with the rate of change. Rotary, don't become a has-been. Don't become a has-been. Lloyd, when I was preparing for this, when I was preparing for this presentation, I went online and I went to this wonderful learning system called YouTube. And I put in the history of Rotary. And then I was proud to know that there was this amazing start in my home city, Chi-Town, baby, Chicago. I was like, yeah, Rotary. And then I started looking at these videos, Rotary in other countries. And I saw this passion for helping out community. Question, will your rate of change overtake your rate of learning, or will you keep up? Part of that is tapping into generational differences. What if you develop a reverse mentoring program where the millennials and the Gen Z teach you stuff, and then the boomers, the traditionalists, and the Gen Xers, we're teaching, right? So we have this learning environment. So the young people feel like, hey, I'm adding value in this organization that wants to be around. Let me share this with you. If people don't see themselves there, they're leaving. So equity says, what do I do different? And Best Buy was like, hey, we got to do something different. We got to try some stuff. What got us here is not going to take us there. So when we have a combination of diversity, right? So, yeah, we got some differences. Inclusion, where you make the differences matter. And then you understand, yes, you want to be fair. Yes, you want to be consistent. I get it. The reason why we have equality says we want to be fair. Equality says we don't want to show favoritism. Equality says we don't want to show cronyism and nepotism. But there are people who need things differently in order to access that. Let me give you an example. Are there any parents in here that have multiple kids? All right. This is one of my favorite questions. So question. Do you parent With an equality lens or an equity lens? So a few weeks ago, I was speaking at the Minnesota Hospital Association, and I came off the stage, and this woman says, well, Jermaine, my kids are grown now. I might have screwed that one up. I love laughing with people afterwards, right? And just having real conversation. So everyone, here's the example. So 4 kids, right? My older brother, Andre, then it's me, my brother, Greg, and my sister, Katrina. My brother, Andre, very smart, very intelligent, like has a high IQ. I always felt like I had to work for my smarts and intelligence. So my mother, because I was closer to little Greg, my mother used to try to motivate him doing this. Little Greg, you need to be more like JD. Here's my other favorite Dr. Phil statement when he says, well, how's that working for you? Right? And it didn't work. So my mother actually doing that, my brother developed a resentment towards me. You need to be more like JD and your brother Andre, right? Because my brother wasn't academic, nor was he athletic. I played basketball. Like I love sports. My older brother wasn't into sports. You need to be like your brother JD. Play sports, stay out of trouble. You know what he said? F JD. So she created this between my brother and I. You know why? Because my mother wasn't thinking about equity with her parenting. She didn't look at the unique differences of my brother. She tried to parent us the same. Kids are different. They are. Yes, you can give equitable stuff, but hey, maybe this one kid only wants a couple of pieces of this because they have a bigger appetite. So what do you do different? I love this quote by the author, the anthropologist, and the filmmaker. Look how much time I have left. The anthropologist, Zora Neale Hurston, when she says, I would rather be looked over than overlooked. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, at your table, I want you to discuss this quote. I would rather be looked over than overlooked. The person who's going to start this discussion will be the person who woke up the earliest this morning. All right, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes to discuss this quote at your table. All right, Rotary, let's come back together with a round of applause. Thank you. Now, one of the things I want you to think about, leading and working with an inclusive lens means that we must notice differences. So share a story. I was in upstate New York, and I was doing some training with law enforcement. And it was a 3-hour presentation, so we took a break about 90 minutes into it. And so there was an officer who came up to me, and he says, Jermaine, I want to say, I like what you're saying for the most part. And then he says, but I'm going to disagree with you on something. And I said, well, tell me what's your point of disagreement? And here's what he says. He says, as human beings, would you agree that we are more alike than similar? I said, yeah, as human beings, we do have a lot of similarities. And he says, sometimes I think we focus too much on our differences and we don't focus on our similarities. And I said, I see where you're going. I see where you're going with this. And then, so we both just kind of like locked eyes and looked at one another, and then it felt kind of weird and creepy, right? Because I understood where he was going. And then he says, well, what do you have to say? And I said, well, yes, we need to unite and connect around our similarities. However, people don't have conflict. People don't have conflict over their similarities. They have conflict over their what? Differences. I said, have you ever heard of a divorce when they said, well, we got divorced because of irreconcilable similarities? Right? What do you hear? Irreconcilable what? Differences, right? They couldn't work through the differences. And then he was like, oh, I thought I had you. I thought I had you. And I said, well, it's not a debate. I said, but I understand. So yes, we got to seek those common grounds. But here's what I want you to take away. To grow your membership, yes, you want to rally around our similarities, but acknowledge, celebrate, and embrace differences. Differences do make a difference. And let me tell you why. Why do differences make a difference? Everyone, this is a younger version of me 25 years ago with the same hairstyle. Now, this is the oldest student I ever had, Joanne Jones. And Joanne Jones raised 8 kids, all college graduates, all successful, but she came back to college. And she took my course, Introduction to Public Speaking. And this is my best interpretation. She walked in like this. Young man, are you Mr. Davis? I said, call me Jermaine. No, you're Mr. Davis. She says, young man, I heard you're the best communications professor around. I was like, she got charm. She's got charm. She's hustling me for a grade already. She came in, she came over, and she says, can I touch you? I said, yeah. You know how sometimes, like, reminds me of my grandmother. Sometimes when that older person grabs a younger person, they grab them, and you feel like this passion, and you know like this wisdom is about to come. And she says, I'm scared as hell. I said, what are you scared of? She's like, I'm 73. Have you seen the kids around here? I said, yeah, I teach them. She says, I'm the oldest. She said, I don't want them to think that I'm an old fart. And I said, we need old farts and young farts. Hey, I was trying to stick with her metaphor. And everyone, I looked at her and I said, can I touch you back? So we locked hands. It was just her and I. I said, I promise over the next 16 weeks, I'm going to help you succeed. And she looked at me, she says, you promise? I said, I promise. I'm going to make this a great experience for you. Because here's what I know. This relates to Rotary. They can come in. Can we keep them? Can we keep them? Keeping them is in the interactions. Let me go back to the quote by Zora Neale Hurston. I would rather be looked over. You know what she was saying? See me. Notice me. Don't pretend that I'm not different. Differences do make a difference. Now, for some people, they might not want their difference amplified. But be inclusive, right? Diversity, equity. Think about the Zion story, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Listen, I knew that she coming in at 73, she needed some things that some of my other students may not need. I couldn't treat her the same. I gave them the same resources. That's equality. I have office hours. I will help you. You can ask me questions. But I had to think of equity. What does she need different as a 73-year-old student as opposed to a 22-year-old student? That's leading with an equity lens. Everyone is not the same. People are different. Everyone. So I started putting people into groups. And remember how I told you about reverse mentoring? So I created that culture and climate in my class. And I would strategically put Joanne Jones with different students. This is no lie. 6 weeks in, when I would do group work and Joanne wasn't in their group, they'd be like, Jermaine, what's up? We want Joanne. And then Joanne would come up to me. She was like, Jermaine, I'm learning so much from them. Do you know what she said? These kids are going to help me become a better grandparent. You get where I'm going with this? She put her ego aside. She didn't say, I raised 8 kids. She says, no, I'm learning. She's like, I would be a better grandparent because I'm listening to these students. You know what she said? Not having that experience with them would have led to more disconnection with her own grandkids. So now, what difference does the difference make? Everyone, here's something I'm going to invite you to think about. If I never see you again, I truly want you to think about this. As a brand, Rotary as a brand, I want you to practice this as a club and as an individual. Where you sit is where you stand. Where you sit is where you stand. Where you sit. What seat do you sit in? This is a metaphor. We all sit in a different seat. This seat represents different identities. You want to grow the membership? You want to retain? Practice where you sit is where you stand. One of the reasons that we have this, because you know why? I'm sitting in my seat. And you know what about my seat? It's comfortable. I love my seat. I'm used to it. I grew up in this seat. I eat in this seat. I watch TV in this seat. This is my seat. So we have conflict when we don't understand what this seat represents. So one of the things I want to encourage you is to get your members learning about the experiences of other people in the community, the other members that's coming to the meetings. Practice perspective taking. I love this. Which of your unique seats would you love for others to sit, listen, and learn? So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. I'm going to skip this because we kind of talked about that. I want to get into this. So sometimes people say, well, Jermaine, how did you move to the Twin Cities? How did you get here? So I grew up in Chicago, went to grad school at the University of Wisconsin-Superior up by Duluth. Yes, woo! I started my career in Superior, Wisconsin, Duluth, Minnesota. I tell people I was a chip hustler. I hustled chips and dip throughout Minnesota and Wisconsin. I was a district sales and marketing manager for Frito-Lay. That was my boss there, Wendy. Wendy hired me. Let me tell you about where you sit, where you stand. You want to grow your membership? Think about this. Think about a concept called group think. On the count of 3, I want you to say group think. 1, 2, 3. Group think is when members put pressure on other members to think the same. That's not a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they suppress different perspectives. I'm going to tell you a Frito-Lay story. I'm 21 years young, fresh out of graduate school from the University of Wisconsin-Superior. We go down to the Twin Cities. And at this time, Frito-Lay, there was a class action lawsuit. Because at that time, when children, when they would eat the Doritos, you know how it's that triangle, they would put it in their mouth and it would cut and rip the top of their mouth. So there was this class action lawsuit. So we had to brainstorm. Part of diversity, equity, and inclusion is diversity of thought. Great organizations tap into the diversity of thought. So we started brainstorming. Hey, what do we need to do with this chip? This is our biggest brand, but right now we're in this class action lawsuit. So they kind of made it curvy, right? But then the reason why I have these 4 different bags, when I started, there was only 2 seasonings, nacho cheese and Cool Ranch. I'll never forget this. We're brainstorming. How do we grow the Frito-Lay brand? Now, even if you hate Frito-Lay, I want you to take the moral of the story. And by the way, I had some Doritos on the way driving up here yesterday. Right. I don't get any extra stuff for this. I'm just sharing. So now, there was a, look at that. You got Doritos right there. Woo! Are you going to share? No. So now, we're brainstorming. Question first. How many people in here believe that your cultural background influences how you see the world? Okay, you're right. Yeah. So now, one of the VPs says, hey, how do we grow the Frito-Lay brand? And I'm going to give you context. It's a true story. The only visible ethnic racial diversity in the room was myself and this Latino gentleman. And this Latino gentleman says this. He says, well, in my culture, salsa and guacamole is very popular. Everyone. Ding, 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 ding. When I go to organizations now, I don't care what it is. You know, one of the things they talk about around DEI is how do we utilize creativity, ingenuity, and innovation to help us with our products, services, better serve our clients, better serve our patients. I do a lot of work in healthcare, better serve our patients. So all of a sudden, where you sit is where you, where you sit is where you, where you sit is where you. So all of a sudden, there's one person who didn't like guacamole and salsa and was in a position of power, says this, guacamole, salsa. Now everyone, I'm a communications professor. Here's what research says, 93% of all communication is nonverbal. So now, since I gave you that context, guacamole, salsa. Yeah, I see you smiling over there. It's funny, right? So now, 3-day retreat. Question. You think that Latino salesperson spoke up again? No. That's not being inclusive. Because some people won't group think. Your independent perspective makes me uncomfortable. Now, when I'm in a position of power, see, the reason why I threw power in there is because when I have power, I can sanction what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. Part of creating an inclusive environment is relinquishing that leadership and say, hey, where you sit is where you tell me more about guacamole and salsa. Judy, tell me more. Right? Tell me more. Listen, they didn't capitalize on that right away. Do you know it took them years to get salsa and guacamole when all of their other competitors beat them to the marketplace? Everyone, I want you to get this. What can we do as Rotarians to make sure that we're not practicing groupthink? Sure, there's some things that make us uncomfortable, but explore the uncomfortability. A few more things before I close out here that I gotta share this with you. And it's this concept called covering. On the count of 3, I want you to say uncover. 1, 2, 3. On the count of 3, I want you to say covering. 1, 2, 3. If you're gonna grow as Rotarians, one of the things you wanna do is make sure that you're not intentionally or even unintentionally asking people to cover. Now, there's an author by the name of Yoshino who wrote a book on covering, Kenji Yoshino. He's a constitutional law professor in New York. And you know what covering is? Covering is when you hide yourself. You go along to get along. You assimilate. People don't stay if they have to assimilate, especially now in 21st century. How do we create a context where everyone can bring themselves? See, covering is when you believe you gotta go along with the majority of the culture. Everyone, let me tell you why this work matters to me. I used to be afraid to tell my story. When Molly was reading part of my bio, I always think when I hear other people read my bio, it makes me flash back to Chicago. Sometimes people say, how'd you start your speaking career? I had 6 people in my family that were murdered. 5 were shot to death, 1 was stabbed to death. That's what birthed my speaking career. Now it is popular to talk about trauma, but speaking is spiritual and it's therapeutic for me. And it's helpful for other people, so it's a win-win. But I used to be afraid to share. I used to hide that. You know why? Because when my grandfather was murdered, my family was a good working class family on the west side of Chicago. But when my grandfather was murdered, my 5 uncles, every last one of them, my aunt, they all started doing crack, cocaine, heroin, and self-medicating with alcohol. I was embarrassed of that. I'm gonna hide that, play that off. But I had a professor in college, Dr. Jane Foser. Her, Jane Foser. She says, when you hide you from me, I lose out on your rich perspectives, insights, and lived experiences. One day she heard me tell my story. And she says, Jermaine, can I take you out for lunch? I said, yes, I'm a broke college student. Let's go. Yes, you can take me out to lunch anytime you want. And we bonded. She said, you got to tell your story. Question. What Rotarian stories are sitting in your club that's never been tapped into? Right? They're not all tragic. You got a variety of stories that will attract people. Here's one of the things I write in my book. Identification leads to inspiration and motivation. Identification leads to inspiration and motivation. When people can identify with you, your story, your lived experience, they make a connection. Not everyone has the same experiences. So now let me go back quickly. We want to make sure that we're not covering. We want people to uncover, because that's where you get the most creativity, the most innovation, the most ingenuity, and people show up. They give. But if they're hiding themselves, that creates depression and stress, mental, emotional, psychological anguish. So now, everyone, I'm going to go back. Remember this woman here? So now, I won Teacher of the Year award. Who nominated me? Who did she go get? Other students. You like Jermaine Davis? You like Dr. Davis? Let's nominate him. Now, if I nominate myself, I ain't winning. Now, the reason I share that with you is because when we authentically impact people, they want us to thrive and succeed. So now we want to make sure we're not covering. We've talked about this. I've had the wonderful opportunity to speak in different Native American and indigenous communities, and I've been gifted with various forms of this. Anyone know what this is? Talking stick. And whenever it's been gifted to me, this is the most one that is well traveled. This is the one I took when I went to Canada to speak, and I went to Ethiopia to speak, different parts of Mexico to speak. This talking stick is well traveled, but it was gifted to me. Here's how it was explained. Jermaine, the person who holds the talking stick must speak truth to power, and everyone else must listen. I love the Native American proverb when it says this: listen or your tongue will keep you deaf. Listen or your tongue will keep you deaf. Where you sit is where you stand. So let me tell you a story. We're going to do 2 more activities, and that's going to be my time. But I'm going to be here later this evening, and I'm going to be here tomorrow. So I hope to have some conversations for those of you who stick around. But this is a story, everyone. This is my younger brother, Greg. How many people in my family died tragically? 6. This was one of them, my brother, Greg. My brother, Greg, remember I told you the story when my mother wasn't parenting with an equity lens? She tried to treat all her kids the same. She didn't look at their unique differences. Well, my brother was not academic and scholarly like Andre and Jermaine. My brother wasn't athletic. Yeah, we played for fun, but he wasn't athletic, competitive. So my younger brother joined a gang and started selling drugs. And like any big brother who doesn't really know about communication, you know what I did? I flexed my big brother badge. Because my mother would call me when I was going to school in Superior, Wisconsin, and then when I started my career in Minnesota, she was like, JD, you need to talk to your young brother. So you know what I said? Put him on the phone. Right? Isn't that what big says? Maybe you don't. You know, maybe you're so benevolent and so graceful. I wasn't. Put him on the phone. So he get on the phone. Yeah, what's up? Yeah, you know what's up. And everyone, I started yelling, screaming, cursing him out, telling him he was stupid. He was an idiot. You're messing up your life. You're a teenage father. You're a horrible example to my nephew, your son. Quit effing up. Come on, man. Get your stuff together. Hey, question. Does that motivate people to listen? Hey, do you think he knew he was gangbanging? Did he know he was selling drugs? Did he need me to tell him, you're out there selling drugs? He like, duh, I'm out there. So one day I hear the phone drop. And in the background, I hear FJD. So I feel like a hypocrite. I'm going around the United States of America speaking, but I can't reach my own brother. So every time I go somewhere and speak and a younger person came up to me, I'm like, thank you, but I think about little Greg. So here's a tip. Practice deep listening. You want to build a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Whether that dimension of diversity is around race, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomics, abilities, disabilities, class, gender, age, diversity, I don't care what it is. Practice deep listening. Deep listening is when you seek to understand others from their unique perspective. Doesn't mean you agree. Judy, tell me more. 3 years, I didn't talk to my brother. Every time I fly back home to Chicago, he disappeared. And it was this ritual. JD, Lil Greg, and Katrina, we would go to Little Italy. Anyone ever been to Chicago, Illinois? You know Little Italy? Okay. So we would go to get Italian beef, Italian ice, Italian lemonade. That was our ritual. Every time. For 3 years, I would fly home, and it was just Katrina and I. I got the bond with her, but I was missing my brother. So one day, I said, Katrina, tell Lil Greg I'm coming home from Thursday to Monday, and just tell him, please, just stick around. So finally, everyone, he sticks around. We're in the car, and we're driving down Roosevelt Road, going to Little Italy to go get the Italian beef sandwiches dipped in hot pepper. And as I'm driving, my brother's next to me. Everyone, I am awkward. I don't know what to say. So as I'm driving, I say, so what's up, man? Nothing. How's my nephew? Good. How's your girlfriend? And he says, JD, just say it, man. Just do what you normally do. Yell and scream at me. Preach like everyone else do. Go ahead. Just get it out your system. So as I'm driving, everyone, here's what I say. I'm sorry. He says, what? I said, I'm sorry. He said, see, I can hear that. Why didn't you just say that? So here's what I told him. I said, hey, I said, Greg, I said, I'm scared, man. I'm scared. He said, what are you scared of? I said, man, you're my little brother. Literally, I changed your diapers. I remember the first night Mom came home from the hospital. She let you sleep with me. I still remember on that couch, west side of Chicago, Henry Horner Projects, 2145 West Lake Street, apartment 1008. We're in the front room. I'm like this. I said, I remember that. I said, I don't want you to get caught up in the streets. He started to put his guards down. He said, see, JD, what you don't understand? He said, I know you're disappointed. He said, I know you're disappointed, man. He said, but you don't know. I brag about you. I said, my brother made it out. I'm going to get out one day. My brother made it. You, my brother, he's an author. He's a professor. He said, you don't know that because you're not listening. He says, JD, you were never in a gang. You never sold drugs. He said, I made a decision at 12 that I can't get out of at 21. I've been wanting to tell you this, but you're not listening. And here's what he said. He said, in your world, JD, you want to leave a job? You give him a 2 or 3 week notice, right? I said, yeah. He said, you write a letter, send an email, whatever. I said, yeah. He said, in my life, you don't go up to a drug dealer, drug lord, gang leader to be like, hey, here's my 2 week notice. I'm out. He said, you ever watch those mafia movies? I said, yeah. He said, you know when they say blood in, blood out? I said, yeah. He said, that's real. He said, you know another thing you don't notice or you don't know is that me being in the gang protects you, Mom, my dad, Katrina, and Dre, everyone. Ding, 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 ding. I said, what do you mean? He says, if they can't get me, they get the people next to me to hurt me. He said, you don't think they'll run up in there while you teaching to get you to get back at me? He says, you wouldn't know that because you're not listening. I never knew what he was struggling with because you know why? Because I never sold drugs. I was never in a gang because where you sit, I never sat in that seat. I never sat in that seat. See, where you sit is where you stand. In this picture, in the bottom with the blue shirt on is my stepfather, which is, I grew up with Big Greg, which was little Greg's and my little sister Katrina, their biological father. My stepfather battled with alcoholism and crack cocaine. You know what my brother told me? When Andre was away at college in Indiana and you was away at school in Wisconsin, he said that's when my father was really into his crack addiction. He says, JD, did you know? My friends told me, hey, LG, Lil Greg, you know who we saw in the crack line the other day? He was like, who? Your father. He said, you never knew that story because you weren't listening. He says, I know you're disappointed. Why am I sharing this story with you? Because this is a part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The principle and the practice here is deep listening to other people's stories. There are other dimensions of diversity. So, I want you to discuss this at your table. What do you believe is the ultimate goal of listening? Remember, you're going to attract members who have not walked your pathway. You're going to have members who have different beliefs, different values, but they bring a unique dimension of diversity and inclusion to your Rotary Club. How do we tap into that? How do we capitalize into that? So now this time, the person at your table who's going to start the discussion will be the person who lives the furthest away from this building. So I will give you another 3 minutes. March, set, go. All right, let's come back together with a round of applause. Thank you. Woo. All right, okay. Let's do this collectively with our remaining time. I'm going to go around. Anyone want to share? What do you think is the ultimate goal of listening? Yes.
I want to make people feel safe and feel like someone knows and loves them for that person that they will feel.
Hold on. You know what? I screwed that up. I'm walking around with the mic. Can we turn this mic on? All right. Okay. I'm going to get my exercise in before I leave. All right. Okay, tell us your name.
Grace.
Grace. Now, Grace, I know I just totally dropped the ball. You said this wonderful statement, but I really want everyone to hear it. So, what is the ultimate goal of listening? What would you say?
I want to make people feel safe and feel like someone knows them and truly loves them for all that they are. Because a lot of times people feel like no one actually knows me, so no one likes me for who I truly am. So I want people to feel like that they are known and that they are loved and they are safe.
All right. Everyone, round of applause. Woo, thank you. Thank you. Everyone, now listen to what Grace said, right? This safety thing. Safe. I want to create a safe space. So one of the things I like to say is trust is built in the dialogue, not the monologue. Trust is built in the dialogue, not the monologue, right? But people will never open up if they don't feel what? Safe. Right? So let's create that safe space. Give it up again. Woo! I saw another hand. Okay, yes. Tell us your name. What's the ultimate goal of listening?
John Sander. Understanding, but even a little deeper than that, we talked about being realistic, being real and connecting.
Oh, okay. Tell us more about that, about the being real.
Opening up ourselves and allowing us to show our inner side when we're hearing about their inner sides and that sharing.
Yes.
That's the deep connecting in our life.
Thank you. Round of applause. Everyone, think about this. All right. So think about this. Excuse me. So when we are vulnerable, when we're vulnerable, it allows for other people to be vulnerable and open up. I came all the way over here and I can't remember who. Okay. We're going to come back to you. Let's get a new voice. Who else? On the side. Okay. All right. Yes. Yes, what's your name?
Jody.
Jody, yes. Go ahead, Jody.
You need to listen to understand, not listen to respond.
Listen to understand. Oh, okay, hold on. There you go. Listen to understand, not to respond. I'm going to share this with you. Here's what research says in the listening process. The average person, brain research, can process up to about 600 words per minute. The average person speaks about 100 to 150 words per minute. So you know what that means? The person who's processing, they can listen and process 4 to 6 times than you're speaking. That's why listening is tough, right? Because you're speaking 100 to 150 words per minute, and I'm like, catch up, mustard. Right, come on. And so now, you know what I'm doing? I'm formulating my argument. I'm going to tear this down. So now if I'm focusing on tearing down your argument, I am not with you. So I don't make a deep connection. Boom. Oh, thank you. Anyone else on this side? Okay, young person. No? That's right. Okay. Woo! Okay, yes, we got to get them involved. Yes. Oh, we got 2. Boom, boom. You're going to get your books before you even say something. All right. Thank you. So tell us your name, and then what do you think is the ultimate goal of listening?
My name is Harold.
Harold?
And I would say the ultimate goal of listening is recognizing the human being behind the person you're talking to.
Round of applause, recognizing the human being behind. Thank you. You know, Harold, did I say that correct? That actually reminds me of what Joe said on the stage earlier when when Joe was talking about love and kind, like seeing that person, right? But if I demonize and I vilify that person, guess what? Everyone, this is another presentation. The moment we demonize and vilify people, you know what happens? It's easy to disrespect and to disregard them. I'm going to say that again. If I can demonize you and vilify you, it's easy for me to discount you, right? But if I humanize you, that's a different experience. All right, thank you. And what's your name?
My name is Leire.
Leire?
Yeah.
Did I pronounce it correct?
Yeah.
Leire. Okay, yes. What do you think is the ultimate goal of listening?
I think we need to listen to be able to see. We need to learn how the other people view the world, because every single person, I kind of think as though they have different lenses.
Absolutely.
And how they build these lenses throughout their life, and that's how they see the world because of how they've built it.
Yes. Everyone listen to that. They built this lens throughout their life. Round of applause. Woo! All right. And now, okay, I don't want to be exclusive. Well, I wanted to be inclusive of some other voices, but I came back, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, because I only got 1 word last
Okay.
time. I have 600. No, I'm just kidding. I've thought it was challenging in our table because we were thinking about the person that was trying not to be listened to. So the goal would be to get beyond all those shields.
Tell us more about why would the person trying not to be listened to?
Out of fear.
Ooh. Okay, tell us more. What do you mean? What are they fearful of?
I think people have a hard time revealing if they've been hurt.
Thank you. You know, round of applause. You just set me up. Thank you. Thank you. This, as I begin to close out, this is a good setup. So in my DEI work, I cannot speak for other DEI speakers. All right. So, you know, how many people have heard of this phrase, cancel culture? Right? You heard of that? So everyone, let me share something with you. We learn, we unlearn, and we relearn. So here's what I believe. I believe that we can hold people accountable and show grace. And let me tell you what I mean by this. What you allow, you teach. What you allow, you teach. If I allow for sexism, racism, homophobia, religious intolerance to persist in my environment and I don't do anything about it, I'm teaching people that that's okay. Let me give you an example. So you have an organizational culture, and then you have a climate within the culture. So here's what I mean by that. There's Rotary International, and then there's different Rotary clubs. There is a culture, but different clubs are different because of the leadership and the members. And the leaders and the members make up that. So this happened at Century College. At Century College, where I teach, there's a Century College culture. And then there's a Jermaine Davis climate in the communications department. And I want people to feel safe. So I'm teaching a class 6 to 10, Mondays. And I open up the class at 5 p.m. and I let students come in because people are coming from work, they can eat. I put on a little music. I write the quote of the day because I always have a quote of the day. I go back down to my office. One day, I leave and I come back, and as I'm walking into the room, I hear this phrase. It's the F phrase. Freaking F word, it rhymes with maggots. So now, as a leader, I could pretend I didn't hear it. I like to be liked. My heart is doing this, Rotary. Boom, 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 boom. So I walk past the 4 students in the back. Internally, my internal compass is saying, I can hear my mother, JD, baby, your audio needs to match your. I can't run around my class saying, I want you to be safe here. I want you to be safe. And when there's an opportunity for me to create safety with my leadership, I don't do anything. So I walked to the front, and internally I said, Jermaine, you got to address this. So I walked to the back. And the 4 students, I said, excuse me, can I see you all in the hallway? My heart. Increased heart palpitation. And here's what I say. I'm nervous. And you may have heard the quote, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is facing your fears. You face it even when you're nervous. You speak truth to power. That's leading with an inclusive lens. And I say, hey, listen, I don't know the whole story. I don't know the whole context. But as I was walking into the room, I heard this word. And here's what I want to say to you. That's not allowed at Century College, nor is it allowed in Jermaine Davis's class. So I am going to ask that you refrain from utilizing that language at Century College, and then particularly in Jermaine Davis's class. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. 2 of the students right away said, Dr. Davis, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. One of the students looked sorry, but didn't say it. The other student was like, can we change people? But you can set the tone with your leadership. That day I get home, I get an email from one of my students. Dr. Davis, I already liked you. I really like you now. Here's what my student said. I was ear hustling, AKA being nosy. But everyone, here's what she said. You didn't know this. I'm gay. What you did today demonstrated that I can be safe around you. You ever hear that quote attributed to Spider-Man? Great power comes with great responsibility. If we're in a leadership role, people have expectations that we set the tone, because what you allow, you teach. So you can turn off the slides. I'm going to end with an interactive piece. But this time, I need 6 volunteers from the audience to come up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more, 6. All right, come on up. Come on, come on, come on. All right. Let's give them a round of applause. Woo! Come on up. Okay. I'm going to give you a 10, give you a 10, give you a 10. Everyone, this is our finale. Okay, give you a 10. Okay, I'm going to have you come on this side over here. Come on in, Julie. Give you a 10. Okay. So now, you want to make Rotary strong? I'm going to demonstrate something, okay? This is how we're going to close it out. We're going to close this out on a high note positivity. But before we do this, question. Did you learn some things? Yeah? Did you take some things away? Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Rotary. On the count of 3, I want you to say synergy. 1, 2, 3. Synergy. 1, 2, 3. Synergy. 1, 2, 3. Synergy says all of us working together collectively is better than any one of us working alone. Yes, I know there's different Rotary clubs, but there's a brand. I want you to think about this. So here's what happens when we work together collectively, synergistically. Okay, we're going to do a mathematical calculation, okay? Put your 10s up. 10 times 10 is? 100. Oh, some of you, like, I failed math, Jermaine. That's right, I still love you, right? All right, 10 times 10 is? 100. Times 10 is? 1,000. Times 10 is? 10,000. Times 10 is? 100,000. Times 10 is? 1 million. So if you were to write down 1 million on a piece of paper, so when they work together synergistically, here's what they're doing. They're sharing ideas. Hey, what's working for you? What's not working? What do you do? How do you deal with this DEI issue? Hey, we have some members that feel awkward about this. We have some people who are uncomfortable. We got some liberals. We got some Democrats. We got some Republicans. We got some conservatives. We got people with this, right? Like you got to be able to have courageous conversations. You got to talk through it. Because remember, you don't want to stuff, because that kills creativity and innovation, and it builds resentment. Right? So you want synergy. Question, can one person, one club that's not committed and dedicated, can they affect the productivity? Yes. Okay, tell me your name again.
Larry.
Larry. Spell it for me.
Leyre, but it's a tricky name.
No, that's all right. That's right. Now, everyone, this is an example of value and diversity. I want to learn how to appropriately enunciate and phonetically say that, because that's the spirit of inclusion. So make me work. What is it again?
Larry.
Larry. Larry. Did I get it? Larry. 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 Right? So now, seriously, I've heard horror stories from students where people don't want to work to learn it. Inclusion says, learn it. Phonetically, work at it. Right? But then we got to be gentle, right? So we got to have grace. Larry. All right. So Larry, I want you to switch with Julie. Okay, Julie, so you come over here. So now, everyone, Larry comes in, and Julie was a 10, but now something happened where Larry is a 5. Now, we know in real life you are 1,000. This is just an activity. Okay, help me out. 10 times 10 is? 100. Times 10 is? 1,000. Times 10 is? 100. Times 10 is? 100. Times 5 is? 500. Productivity was cut by what? Half. Now, in the interest of time, all right, so you all can take a book. So take a book before you leave the stage, grab one up there, and everyone, let's give a round of applause to everyone. I'll take those. All right. Thank you. Thank you. So here's what I want you to think about. So what do we do in this case? This is where a courageous conversation comes into play. And so that's what I'm going to end with. Leading with a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. If you remember, I started off by saying, I'm not going to sweep things under the rug. You want to have a courageous conversation. When we have people who are underperforming and we have people who are behaving inappropriately that would damage the brand, we need to pull them aside and have a courageous conversation. And let me tell you what a courageous conversation is. It's when we're honest, open, and transparent. I call it a hot conversation, right? It's honest, open, and transparent. So you have a hot conversation with them. Just like I had with those students. Excuse me, in this environment, this is not welcome. Here's a kind of culture and climate that we want to create. We want to create an inclusive environment for everyone. And sometimes people may be struggling with things. We learn, we unlearn, and I want to say thank you for allowing me to use my talents. Thank you for trusting me, Lloyd. Thank you. Where's Kay? Kay. Okay, thank you very much. And Molly, thank you for introducing me. And I will be around. But I will tell you, my son is in a playoff game, so I'm going to leave here, drive to Lakeville, go watch that game, then I'm coming back. I promise I will be back. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Really?
Good job.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Okay.
Wow, Jermaine, that was powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.